Ladies and gentlemen, it's episode 28 of Leppy Duels. I'm your host, Jacob Arvidson. Yes, that's all true. This is episode 28 of Leppy Duels. I'm still your host, Jacob Arvidson. We are still sponsored by Jarvie Media. But we've got an extra guest here on the studio set today, Josh Wood.
Go.
And we're doing something a little bit different this week. We're still going to have our highly touted guests, our highly knowledgeable guests, Josh being one of them, of course. But we're going to try a format that we're trying to build to here on Leppy Duels, which is a post-debate type of thing with further discussions on the topics that we're talking about. The cast and I and the panel have really talked about after each show, hey, our greatest conversations come once we're off air, when we're able to expand on the things that were said in the minute and a half parameter. So we really want to expand on that with you guys. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest this week, Trevor Harbolt, West Shinevar. Welcome to episode 28. And we're going to dive right into our first discussion topic of the night, were the format changes to the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship this past weekend positive or negative? We talked about on Leppy Duels last week, kind of foreshadowing what the answer would be. But now that we saw it play out, what were your guys' takes, Trevor?
I mean, I actually didn't hate it. I thought I was going to dislike it a lot. And I know me and Wes were actually the ones that were talking about this on this question that you had last week. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was, I think it was a little unfair for some of the players, but like me and Wes both said, Nicolas Antela was going to be the one that didn't have a stroke advantage that would make it, and that happened. So it was fun. It was fun to guess. But I don't know. I don't think there was too many negatives besides the fact that there was people that just really kind of didn't have a shot to get to the next round. But I think that's kind of what they wanted, was to have the top players of that season this year be at the top. And it was really fun at the end. I enjoyed it. I didn't really even know that they were going to reset the scores. So that surprised me as well. And I think it was fun. It was a good time.
Wes?
Yeah, it's so nice being able to happily agree with Trevor and not have to debate and go back and forth here, although I'm sure we will a little bit. But I completely agree. I think that I was surprisingly happy with how the format worked. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has been very clear all year that these points are a big deal. They've made a big emphasis to every single touring player that these points matter, and when you get down to this last event of the season, which we saw as a very well-funded event, the 40K for first place is more than any of the other tournaments, including the majors, which is maybe a little bit crazy, maybe something else to touch on in the future. But overall, I think that this format did what the Disc Golf Pro Tour wanted it to do. It showcased the best players throughout the season. I felt like the list was comprehensive and including everybody that deserved to be there. And I feel like the format was interesting. I think the stroke advantage certainly helped. Some guys were able to come out with a good round one and kind of coast round two, and there were other guys that were sort of battling for those last couple spots. I know we saw Adam Hamez had a really bad round one, but this two-round kind of format allowed him to battle back the second day, clean up all his mistakes, come in with a fire round, and then make it to that final stage. So I think this format really just had a lot of good things going for it. The people that worked really hard and did well all year got those strokes, but then it also allowed for some storylines to still be had as players kind of jockeyed for those bottom 4 or 5 spots.
Josh, did you have any takes differentiating from them at all, or kind of agree?
No, I do agree with them, especially in regard to the fact that it came out a lot better than I expected it to. I didn't think it was going to be quite as enjoyable as it was. I am interested to hear, though, just as a follow-up question, I think it was on one of the practice rounds last week, Ulibarri mentioned, these guys work so hard all year long getting these points, getting into position on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. What if at the beginning of October they just paid out based on those points and positions and then had a tournament with this format for the belt or for the cup or for whatever it is, for the prize, but all that work that Calvin puts into his whole year, and he walks away with 25% of what Ricky did when Ricky wasn't there the first couple of months. We were waiting for him to finally get going on tour. So what do you guys think about that idea that Yuli threw out?
I mean, they did that with the PDGA for the national tour, so I don't see why we couldn't do it for the pro tour. The problem is they're trying to put so much money in the tournaments right now that that's like another thing they have to pay
Another
for.
pot
So,
they need to fill.
yeah, while we're trying to get more money in the sport, like it's kind of hard to do that at the moment without taking. I mean, let's be real. I had a silver card this year, so there was money we had to pay to get our silver card, and that money went to probably portions of tournaments or portions of, they said, for bathrooms and picture taking and all this and people getting paid. And I understand it all, but like there's not enough money yet to do that. National tour, I think, was taking money from each entry and putting it aside for that, which I think is smart. But I don't think that the pro tour is ready for that yet, if you ask me.
Wes, did you have anything to add there?
No, I agree. I mean, this is something that I've talked about on Leppy Duels on our debate, is that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is still focused on trying to make money at these tournaments, and the way that they do that is by getting spectators there. So I think that having this $40,000, the biggest purse of the year, is another draw to try and get spectators out there to come out and watch these guys battle for it. Because I don't care whether you're Calvin or Ricky, when you're playing for 40K that last round, there's going to be some nerves. There's going to be some stories throughout the round. There's stories leading up to the round. So, while I like the idea, well, maybe there could be a share of this finals money that maybe goes to, the points leader or top 3 or 5 in points or something, instead of having 40K, maybe the winner gets 30K and we move that 10K over to something else. I could see something like that, but I think that having the money where it is right now makes sense for their goals of just having a more exciting event, having these guys play for more.
Okay, I think the key thing for me to touch on were from what Trevor said, paying these guys, and what Josh said, paying these guys for how they finished the season as a whole. I think my takeaway from that is the Pro Tour is kind of doing that, saying, hey, if you qualified for this event, you're getting 2,500, whether you take dead last or if you win, you're at least getting something. So I think maybe in their minds, that's what they're looking at. Hey, these guys are getting paid for being here, for performing. Maybe not based on how they performed, how they ranked at the end of the season. But, they finish in the top 32. They're getting paid for that, and then they have a chance to earn more. So
Sure.
Maybe that's a little bit in there. The other point I wrote down on this particular topic is not necessarily the Pro Tour's fault per se, but the post-production part of this was interesting. I thought round 2 in particular, Jomez takes the top 4 performers from the first day and records them, which is, great players, obviously shredding a course, but they're playing completely relaxed because they're already through, with quotations, to the final round, when the battle in that second round was really several cards down. Hey, here's your bubble. They're trying to qualify for the final to get a bigger payday. I thought they kind of whiffed there. Obviously, Jomez is wrapped up in, the Pro Tour now. So did you guys have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, that's a really great point. I hadn't actually thought about that, but we talked about the storylines being in that bottom 4, and even some of the guys who didn't quite make it, like James Proctor. He was getting flashed on screen a bunch for a bunch of his C2 putts and other stuff he had going on. But I think that is probably an area where they could improve, and maybe that just means bringing in another film crew to have maybe one or two more cameras that are following those cards and those guys that are kind of fighting for those spots, and then Jomez can, keep doing what they're doing. They kind of had the reputation of following the lead card, and that's just sort of what they do. So I think that there's a great opportunity there for them to bring in another film crew and record some of those more tense rounds.
Trevor, anything to add?
I mean, it don't matter to me, I guess, really. It would be cool to see everybody play, right? Like, I wish that they had a camera on every single hole, on every basket, on every tee pad, and they had a couple people following around like they do in the, other sports. But we're just not there yet. So, I don't even really watch post-produced stuff anymore now that there's live disc golf. I don't really watch that stuff unless it's like a smaller A tier or something, like, or whatever, that I don't get to see coverage on very often, or a friend's playing or something like that. I just don't watch post-produced stuff anymore.
Fair enough. Josh, anything to add on that? Or
Yeah, it was interesting. I had the opposite take. I was watching live, and they were not showing a lot of Kelvin. Everybody knows I'm a Kelvin fanboy. So I wanted to see Kelvin play, and they kept showing the guys further down who were making moves and where the storylines were, which I appreciated. I enjoyed that. but also show me every shot that Kelvin throws, please.
I like the fact that you guys keep bringing up storylines because that's something that's happened I think over the last couple of years in our sport that's been really hitting a lot of fans. Is like we do have storylines in our sport now, and it's showing. The more people that come into our sport, the more storylines we're gonna have. So I think it's really cool when that stuff happens.
Awesome. All right, good stuff on topic number 1. Let's jump to the second one here. Ricky's top 10 tweet. This was kind of big-ish news last week. He kind of threw it out there out of nowhere, and there were some thoughts, namely Simon not being on the list, which got some reaction. He commented on his own post, apologizing and saying Simon belongs at, I think, quote, I would put Simon at number 5, 6. Is what Ricky said in his comment below.
So why'd you leave him off?
Yeah, but let's talk about that. We can discuss the Simon aspect or how he ranked people as well. Wes, lead us off here.
Yeah, there's a lot of great players. It's easy to forget somebody. No shade to Ricky for forgetting Simon there. I know if I went through my top 10, I would probably forget 1 or 2 of the guys that should be up in that conversation. Overall, I think if you gave me this list without ranking them 1 through 10, and you said that this is the top 10 in our sport right now, I would say okay. Obviously there's a lot that you can debate. He puts Bradley Williams up at 8. Bradley's been playing good. Another thing I want to add here too is that he's talking really a heat index, top 10 players right now. So that doesn't necessarily mean the top 10 players over the course of the season. He's looking at the top 10 players right now. If these guys went and played, how would they stack up, I think, compared to each other? I think putting Paul down at 9th is something to talk about. Obviously, the Paul-Ricky rivalry is pretty well documented over the last decade. I think putting Paul Macbeth down at 9th is much too low, in my opinion. But when I'm looking at this top 5, I think I would probably agree. I'd probably put Ricky a spot below Gannon myself, but I would feel pretty good about that top 3.
Trevor?
I love stuff like that. Like that, I was really looking forward to talking about this because the first thing is the Simon thing. We left him off, and the only reason people are freaking out, and this list is very close to the UDisc rankings list and to the Statmando rankings list. So he just basically went off the top 10 of right now, like he's saying. But honestly, I would not put Paul in the top 10 because right now is right now, and he has not been playing right now. So I wouldn't put him in that top 10 at the moment, but I mean, if we're talking about season wise, and of course Paul's going to be in there, but at this moment, if I got to replace Paul Macbeth, of course I'd probably go Simon, but I'm thinking like Nicolas Antela, who's been playing really good as of late. And then you've got, golly, I just had the list up. Let me look at my phone. I was ready for this question. But I don't
Dickerson,
think
Cole,
yeah,
AB.
Cole's the other one. Cole's been
Yeah.
playing really good as of late, and not because he's my DGA teammate, but that kid has a whole bunch of upside too coming up at the end of the season. But like, I think that his list was just fairly just looking at the rankings. It makes sense of who all's in there. It's not a big deal like that he left Simon off. I don't think. I mean, Simon's a good player, but at the moment, right now, has he been playing very good the last few tournaments? I mean, not as good as some of these other guys on that top 10, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think he's got a pretty solid top 10 at this moment. Like I wouldn't. I was like Wes. I would look at it and be like, well, yeah, that'd be pretty good. But I would probably have Gannon at number 3. My personal opinion. But the other two, Isaac Robinson and Ali, who's a top person on his list.
Calvin.
Calvin, yeah, I'd keep those there at the moment. And Kyle Klein instead of Ricky, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
I would put Ricky at like 6 or 7, even though he won the Pro Tour Championships. The other tournaments he hadn't been playing that great. I mean, yeah, like top 15 probably consistently, but Calvin's been playing hotter. Isaac's definitely been playing hotter. Gannon's been playing hotter. And Kyle, I mean, Kyle's been on fire lately. So he almost came back and won the Pro Tour Finals. So it's hard not to put him in the top 5 for me. But other than that, I think it's a good list.
Josh, any
For
other
sure.
thoughts?
No, I think it was a pretty good list. I do like the fact that Ricky didn't put himself in the top 3. That shows at least a little bit of humility, maybe. But yeah, there might be a couple other people I'd put in there, but I think it's a pretty good list. And I agree. I think it should be Kelvin, Isaac, Gannon, and then Eagle and Ricky.
Yeah, I think you guys hit it.
It's
It's
hard
a
for me.
pretty compact list.
It's hard for me to even put Eagle up there though. Like
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah.
he's not been playing that great. So like to put him way up there like that in the top 5 when you got to have a
No.
Kyle Klein, and even Ricky's been playing better than Eagle. So it's hard for me to
Well,
put Eagle in the top 5.
Yeah, and maybe Maddie should be moved up above Eagle and Ricky because Maddie's been playing a lot better in the last month or two than
Right.
the two of them.
And don't forget about your boy sitting right here in front of y'all, Trevor Harbolt, dude, ranked at
Oh, yeah.
181, 181st on Statmando, 169th
Nice.
on UDisc. So
Nice.
don't forget about me. I've been playing hot.
What I would like to see too is to see this list compared with. I love the stat they brought out the last couple of weeks or months of Kelvin's average finish being a fourth place this year. So I wonder
that's
how
crazy.
this list of top 10 would stack up in that regard. Like what's Isaac's, I think, was 11 is what I figured out. But it'd be interesting to see all 10 of those and where their average finish was this year.
No, that's
I don't think anybody beats Calvin's
a
number.
good
I
thing.
like that stat.
Any of our viewers
stat.
who are into the stats and the data want to throw together a spreadsheet and
Yeah.
rank the top 10 based on that, we'd love to see it.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Wes.
I was gonna say, I do want to add too, if you're looking at UDisc specifically, they show how many positions players have moved, or maybe it's how many points. I'm not sure exactly what the metric is with the dominance index, but I feel like when you're looking at players that have had positive movement on there, it's easy to see that those are the players that have been playing better compared to, maybe early or mid-season. So you have Simon and Isaac who have, been playing good. Obviously, Kyle Klein, we've talked about winning USDGC, that really ramps him up into that conversation. Bradley Williams, really the same. Aaron Gossage up a little bit. He's kind of been somewhat consistent all year. He's kind of been on the fringes with some splashes here and there, but not really had any I guess huge finishes this
Once
year.
that
He
dude
lost.
figures out his putting, though, holy crap.
Yeah, he's got some game. Antela climbed up a little bit, and then Joel Freeman also kind of rounds out people that are in that top 20 who are trending upwards. So I think when you start looking at those names, you could certainly argue. He has Aaron Gossage in his top 10 here, but I think that you could argue any of those names maybe come in and battle for some of those like bottom 2 or maybe 3 spots.
Yeah, I agree. I think my biggest takeaway here was when I initially saw this tweet come out and it kind of get some splash, and I actually looked at it. It was more of a reaction of, hey, I thought Ricky was putting this out there to kind of give someone their due, right? Maybe a dark horse that he thought belonged in the top 10 that was maybe UDisc, Statmando-wise ranked down in the 25 area, that he thought, hey, this person needs recognition. Obviously, that's not the case, so I was almost surprised. Why did he feel the need to put it out there? Because it's so similar to every ranking that we already have. Like, yeah, we all know Calvin, Isaac, Eagle, Ricky, Gain, and Matteo. We already know they're the best in the world right now. So I thought that was interesting why he would even put that out there in the first place. But I think Wes's point that he said initially was huge there, the Macbeth thing. Because I think if we look at Ricky's list here, there's a tier 1 and there's a beginning of a tier 2. There's Calvin to Kyle Klein, and then Bradley Williams is the beginning of tier 2 on his list, and he clearly has Macbeth in tier 2. I thought that was maybe a small backhanded statement there from Mr. Wysocki. I don't know what you guys thought.
I don't think Ricky looks at the rankings, right? I think Ricky just plays disc golf and eats healthy and does his stuff. If you notice, like all throughout the week when he's not at a tournament, he's like doing so many clinics and he's at different places running things. He's doing doubles. That dude presses shirts so all day long, man. Like I don't think he has time to look at the rankings. And he's a sports fan, so he probably does look at the rankings, but I think he's just so sports like on top of it, like of who he plays against, and he has a great like just know of like, man, these guys are playing really good right now, and I want to see how I stack up with them, and let's put this out here and let's see what everybody says. I think that might be his thing because he does have a really cool fan base on Twitter. A lot of people like really hit him up all the time. I mean, he shared some of my stuff, and I was like, "What, Ricky? What are you doing, man? You sharing my stuff? That's cool. Thank you very much." So, but he's really good on Twitter, and so I think it's just him doing content, just keeping his thing going. You guys know all too well, like to keep a YouTube channel going, to keep a social media going, is being consistent with what you do. So it just might be something he just wanted to do to keep his Twitter going, or just to see what feedback he gets from his fans and other people. The Paul McBeth thing, though, like, it's kind of funny now that you guys mentioned that, but I wouldn't even put Paul in my top 10 right now, like, because he's not playing. So um, I don't know how to take that one really. And maybe it's just him, just like, hey, I better put Paul in the top 10 right now. I better not put him at 10, but maybe I need to put him at 9. Whatever. But I don't think it has anything to do with their rivalry. It's kind of slowed down actually over the past few years, if you ask me. So
Well
Yeah,
said, Trevor.
I think these lists, anytime somebody does a top 5 or a top 10, there's always a screwball in there to get people talking about it, to generate conversation, exactly like we're doing now.
right.
Ricky might actually think that Paul McBeth is, the fifth best player, because I'm imagining he puts himself ahead of Paul right now after his victory. But just for the sake of reposts and likes and shares and stuff, maybe he threw Paul down there at 9. Maybe he actually thinks Paul is 9. Either way, I love this stuff. I think this is a great little bit of intro into the off-season type of content, and I actually hope that we see some more of the top guys, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter or X or Instagram or wherever. I love these things. I think it generates fun conversation. I think it generates healthy discussion, and at the end of the day, we are talking about these players instead of not talking about them, and I think that those are all positive things.
Please, Elon Musk, don't shut me down. It's called X now, not Twitter. My bad.
Key point there, Trevor. Anything to add there, Josh?
No, I think we got it.
All right, let's round it out here. We got a couple minutes left with Wes and Trevor. So, question 3 here. In regards to spectator ticket prices, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? Trevor, lead us off here.
First of all, do you know how much they charge for the spectator passes? Do you even know, Wes?
Yeah,
Like, do you know
so
how much?
I did a little bit of research here, wrote some
Okay.
stuff down. A day pass on the Pro Tour for an elite event this past season. Obviously, silver events are gone now. But an elite event was about 20 to 25 for a day pass to show up, be a spectator. A VIP 4-day pass will come with a little perk like a disc or whatever. Generally run about 100. And then the elite and the gold passes, which are your 4-day, your specialty packages, comes with all sorts of hoopla with it, ran between $150 and $300. And then you had the Pro Tour Championship, which ran about $750, and Worlds was $1,200. So across the board there, but hopefully that helps you, Trevor.
Okay. So I got to process this. That's a lot of okay. I think that you're getting screwed over if you go to a disc golf pro tour and have to pay all this money. You can watch it live, pay less money. You could on live coverage. I mean, you could watch it for free on YouTube for post produced, or you can go to a tournament and watch live disc golf, follow your favorite card, and go to a little thing after the end of it and spend all your money on frisbees. I think it's just a money pit for people now. Like, come on, man! Like, you're gonna $100 if you buy 1-day pass for all 4 rounds, and then you're telling me they're going to charge $1,200 for a week of disc golf at Vermont, one of the most expensive places to go watch disc golf. The hotels are ridiculously expensive. The condos are expensive. Everything's so expensive. First of all, I don't think they're doing it the right way. I think that there should be more stuff to do at the tournaments, because I personally am not going to go pay $150 to watch 4 rounds of disc golf, walk around Northwood Black and Eureka Park with a bunch of people and not really get anything fun out of it. It's not fun to go watch disc golf for me. I love to play the game. That's my thing. I love to play. I'll go watch LeBron James. I'll go watch Tom Brady. I'll go watch, some of these other guys, but I am not paying that much money to go walk around, spend all my energy, all my time, all my money when I can just sit at home and watch it on the TV, man. I can't do that. That's insane to me. So to answer your question, I have no idea what's right or wrong. Do people feel like they're getting their money's worth when they go to these things? Like, I mean, to get a chance to see Ricky Wasaki play 18 holes of disc golf. I mean, like the disc golf world is we're so easy to get to. Like, all the players are so easy to talk to, so easy to get a clinic from. Why are we paying this much money to go watch them play and then have nothing to do while we're there except for spend more money? I know we're a consumer, we are consumers as human beings. We love to consume all this stuff. Like, we love to buy, we love to spend our money and do all this, but my goodness, dude, that's a lot of freaking things like to spend your money on. Then there's nothing fun to do except for go watch your favorite disc golfer for 4 hours, and it's 100 degrees outside, or snowing, or raining, or windy, or whatever it is. I just don't find it to be. That's my personal opinion, though. I just ain't doing it.
Yeah, we'll see. Wes, do you agree with Trevor?
Well, I think 1,200 for Worlds was probably a lot. I know when I was there, I was helping out at the Discraft tent vending, and I went and walked a couple of holes, and there were a lot of bathrooms up by HQ, and there were not very many bathrooms out on the course. So if I was paying $1,200 for the week, and there's one bathroom out on the course that I could use, I would not be very happy. So for that one in particular, I feel like that one is too expensive. But just kind of another idea that I want to put out there that maybe a lot of people don't understand is that manufacturers are still putting a lot of money into the Pro Tour and these tournaments. A lot of the upper tier, contracts are including entry fees and stuff, and these manufacturers are helping to support the Pro Tour in a lot of different ways, from entry fees to product, to trying to show up as vendors to have cool stuff for the people that are coming. And to me, in my mind, the Pro Tour would be better served to bring those rates down and keep some of that money in people's pockets to spend with the vendors, uh, and the other, surrounding areas, to have a bigger economic impact. I think that if I walk in, with $100 and I have to use that for my spectator pass, I'm not as likely to go over to some of the vending tents and spend my money. But if I pay, let's say $20, I think $20 is probably a fair number. That means I still have $80 to go buy, 4 discs from the vendors that are there, trying to recuperate some of the money that they are putting into the Pro Tour to support these higher payouts and the growth of the game. So, in my opinion, I think that the rates kind of are what they are. I think they're a little bit high, but I think that model, or that idea of charging a lot of money for spectators instead of allowing people to bring that money to spend with the vendors, or to have the bigger economic impact in the surrounding area, and maybe bring in some other sponsors in the area because they're seeing more patrons and more people spending money at the restaurants and at the shops and that kind of stuff. In my mind, that seems like potentially a better model, but I see why the Pro Tour does it. There was a lot of people at Worlds, so there was a lot of people that were paying at least whatever the day pass was. I'm sure that they did really well for themselves with the cost, but I think that in the end, that kind of hinders or hampers some of those other areas where people could be spending money and sort of indirectly supporting the Pro Tour.
I think
I love that take.
I think my thing is on it. Just give us more. Like if I'm gonna pay that much money to go watch this, give me more things to do. Give me more things to have fun and be excited about. Because, like you said, you only walk 3 or 4 holes. Sometimes it just sucks to walk all them holes, dude. Like Fox Run is a long walk, dude. Like, so just give me more things to do. Let me consume. Let me do things. Let me like throw a baseball at Nate Heinold. I don't, like whatever. Like I don't. Let me do something and have fun and not just spend my money, because it's inflation's crazy. Our world's nuts right now. Like I'm not a businessman, but like I come from the streets. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna spend all my money if I ain't getting nothing back. Like, what are you giving me? Like, I don't think disc golf is there yet. Like, and I don't think we have stars like we have in the NBA or the Major League Baseball to be charging people this much money. It costs like $18 to go to a Cincinnati Reds game. Like, that's more fun for me than to go and walk around in the hot sun and watch disc golf. Like, I love disc golf, but I'll watch it when I get home. Like I don't know. It just like I can pay $35 and go see 5 of my favorite bands and enjoy it way more than I could by paying something and not getting anything in return except for, holy crap, that dude throws a frisbee really far. Like but
Yeah, great takes from both of you guys. That's gonna wrap us up for Trevor and Wes for this episode. Thanks so much for joining us, you two. Pleasure having you on the show as always, and we'll see you here in future weeks.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So great takes from Wes and Trevor. Is there anything you want to expand on that final topic there with the spectator?
Maybe
tickets?
just a little bit. I thought they both made some great points, other than the fact that clearly Trevor is not the target demographic for spectator passes at
That's a fair
disc golf
point. Yeah.
events. Ultimately, capitalism is going to take care of it. I don't know how full Worlds was selling 1,200 tickets. Like, what was their capacity for spectators? How many did they actually sell? etc. I mean, obviously that's going to be different at every course. It's going to be different at every event. But just from pure capitalism, once you reach the point where you can't fill an event because you're charging too much, you found your price point and you're going to sell tickets there because that's where you're going to make your money. So whether somebody thinks it's good for the sport, bad for the sport, should it only be $20 for the sport? Ultimately, the dollar is going to decide, and the people showing up to the events and paying the money are going to decide what it's worth.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the economics of it are, what's the price point that people are willing to pay? If you're charging $20 for a day pass, which they are right now, and you're selling out 90%, 100% of your day passes, well, then you've probably got the right price point because people are going to buy it, and they don't care if 80% of the world doesn't like the $20. If they sell the number of tickets that they want to sell at that $20 price point, then they did what they were supposed to do. They made money as a business, and I respect that. Now, the one thing we have to look at is the Pro Tour taking this at baseline and saying, hey, all of our elite events are $20 for spectator passes? Because I look at it that you have to be able to fluctuate. You look at DDO last year, nobody was there. Now, that's an exaggeration. Obviously, there was people there, but comparatively speaking, there was nobody there.
Yeah.
And then you look at an event like, Ledgestone always draws a ton of people. D-Glow always draws a ton of people. There's events, Portland draws a ton.
Yeah.
MVP Open seems to draw a ton of people. Like, there's events that draw a huge audience, and maybe you take that price point to 25, 30. Maybe those are the ones you push the envelope on.
Yeah.
And
the ones
DDO,
that people really show up for, and
DDO you drop to 10. I
maybe
think that needs to be something they're aware of.
I'd also like to know, this is just maybe a little bit of a side note, like what are the parameters they're using to determine how many spectators can show up to an event? Because I still fear, I said this a couple of years ago, and now it finally happened this year. I said, one of these days somebody's going to get hit by a grenade, and it's going to hurt. And it happened to a cameraman, not a spectator, but it's just a matter of time before it happens to a spectator. Or even a shank. It doesn't have to be a grenade. You get hit by a 70-mile-an-hour driver that kicks off a tree toward you, it's going to hurt. So I'd love to know the parameters for how we determine the capacity of a disc golf event. And so just along those notes, like, it's got to be different at every event because you're not going to be able to fit the same number of people. And some are going to be a little more exclusive because it's a tighter walk through the woods where you're not going to be able to have 300 people on a hole. So those are some of my thoughts.
Okay. I think those are good. I think there does need to be fluidity in how things are set.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens if anything changes this coming season. I'm curious about that. The final talking point I have on that particular discussion is the VIP, the Gold Elite package, and then the Day Pass. Like we just talked about, I think the Day Pass is pretty close. It needs a little bit of fluctuation per event, like we just said, but I think it's pretty close to the price point that it should be at.
The $25
personally.
Yeah.
The VIP thing, you get a disc, you get a little special memento from that event for what breaks down to probably $20. Is it worth it? I don't know. I guess that's up to the person that's buying it. But at $100 to get your little freebie and 4 days of disc golf, that really breaks down to $20 a day anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem with that. The Elite Gold package stuff is where I kind of see some issue. I mean, if someone's willing to pay it and enough people are willing to pay it, then I don't blame them for charging that amount. But the $1,200 for Worlds, they better have been getting room and board paid for.
I'm sure they did not.
But you get what I'm saying,
right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Like, that's a huge.
I am, but I don't have that kind of disposable income. I suppose the wealthier in our community, to them, it's worth it.
I guess
they want that close-up experience, and they want all the bells and whistles.
And then the $700.
And if they're selling tickets, they're selling tickets.
Yeah, if they're selling tickets, they're selling tickets. That's the end of the argument.
But I would like to know how many tickets they sold.
Yeah, the $750 for the Pro Tour Championship was also interesting to me, especially at a course. Worlds, yes. One course is wooded. There's still woods on the other course, but I'm talking about Vermont this year, Smugs Notch. There's open aspects to that.
Yes.
At least at one of the courses.
But this weekend.
Nevin is not open by any means. Fantastic course.
Yeah.
Challenges the players absolutely how they should be challenged at an event like this. However, spectating wise, I don't care what you're getting with that $750. I don't think that was worth it because the people that paid for the day pass are getting as good a view or better than you are, and they're paying a fraction of what you did. So there's that. Those are my thoughts there. Josh, you had some good things there, and Wes and Trevor obviously drove that conversation quite well.
Yeah.
I loved Wes's point there on that final question. All right, so that wraps up our topics for the day. You and I, though, are bringing back Caddy Chat here in a couple of weeks. What do we got in store for the people?
It's about time. I'm excited to be back. I can't wait to do it. A couple of things we'll talk about the first week or two. We're going to, of course, discuss our bold predictions from the beginning of the year. Now that the season's over, we'll see just how well we did.
How far off were we or how on point
I think,
we may have been.
We'll see. So we'll save that, and we'll talk about that. Maybe even a points update, final tally for our tournament predictions throughout the year that we did in the spring anyway. And then we're working on a few segments, and we'll see how far we flesh any of them out. But there's a lot of exciting things we can talk about coming up.
Yeah, we've got some Michigan-based topics in regards to state championships type stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about course design.
Yeah.
That's been a topic that has been suggested to us. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So stay tuned to Caddy Chat here in the next couple of weeks. Leppy Duels episode 29 coming out next week. So stay tuned for that. We appreciate all you guys at home as always. Thanks for being with us. And Josh?
And, well, first, sorry, I was supposed to close there. No, I was just going to say, let us know in the comments what you thought about this format for this little follow-up post-duels discussion. I'm not sure what you're going to call it yet, but yeah.
Thanks for adding that. All right, Josh.
Until then, keep slinging them discs.
No Brody Smith.
Oh. Can you edit it right there? Because I totally forgot what I said.
You said keep your head in the game.
Keep your head in the game. Son of a gun.
I think I'm going to leave that in there. That's funny. Have a good week, guys.